Hello, so in this video I wanted to start off by showing you the kind of basic workflow for texturing your objects. Now I'm going to keep this very simple to begin with, as this might be the first time you've had a look at the UV editor and UV mapping, but the same steps apply for more complex objects. Now what I'm going to do is make this into a simple wooden crate, and in order to do that I need to create a UV of this. Now the way all texturing works is you have to imagine it in real life, so you have to unwrap your objects. Imagine taking a knife to this and cutting it into sections and laying it all out flat. So we've got all our different faces that we want to apply texture to laid out flat, and we then have a 2D image that we can work to, paint on and apply our textures to. So it's the same as like clothing. If you imagine like your t-shirt, if you were to unsew that or rip it down the seams and lay that all out flat, you'd then be able to paint on that, sew it all back up together, put it back on, and it will look, it's obviously 3D. It's going from 2D laid out flat to 3D, and that's what UV mapping is all about. It can be a bit time consuming, and you can imagine with a very complex object it will take a long time. Now what you need to do for the UV to work is project it. So you need to create a projection. If you come up to the UV menu here and go to automatic, so let me just go to object mode first, I have to have it selected, and then do automatic. You can see what's happening here. This is like a projection. So imagine like these are cameras, okay, and it's taken a shot of every angle of our object. So you can resize this and move it if you want, and get it exactly where you want, but it's taking like a snapshot of every angle and then laying it out flat. Now to find out how it's laid it out, you need to go to the UV editor, and on here you can see that we've got our different faces. So when I select these, oops, I've got different faces. And the same tools apply. So let's say I want to try and find the top. This is the top of my cube. I can move these about, and I can get them, if I just position them all so we can see them, I can start to select our different faces in the UV editor. Now what we want to do is sew these together in the most logical way. So when it comes to texturing it, we don't have to do a lot of work in Photoshop or whatever it is we're creating our texturing. So you're going to sew these together. So imagine this is a cardboard box and we've unfolded it. We want to try and get the same thing going on here. If you go to Edge, this is where we can find out how they should be sewn together, how they should be connected. So you can see when I select this edge, it's actually selecting this edge too, because it should be joined basically, and you can see it on here. If you look over there, you can see that edge is being highlighted on my object. So I can see that this is the top and then this is the side. So in order to connect these, you can select them both, and then you want to go to polygons, move and sew. Okay, click on move and sew, and then that will just keep them nice and neat and move it and connect it. If I want to do the other side, let's just move around so I can see. So now I want to pick this edge. So where are we? Let's go for this one. And I'm going to move and sew again. Now the quick shortcut in Maya for anything that any tool, the last tool you've selected, if you hit G, the key G, it will repeat the process and repeat the last action that you selected. Okay, so I'm going to connect this side. G, so, and what else we got? And we come underneath. Where's the bottom of our object? There we go. So there's the bottom. So this is the bottom now. That's the top. And then lastly, there we go. So we've now sewn it together in a nice logical way. If I go to shell mode, so you can see these are slightly different. it's going to allow me to move the entire thing and resize it. Okay, so the important thing is that I remember that this is the top of my box, and this one is the bottom of my box. Okay, so I'm going to remember that just from, you know, when it comes to painting it and texturing it and applying different things to it within Photoshop, I can do that. Okay, so back to shell mode. What I want to do is create an image file from this, which I can then start to paint on, use it as a guide almost. In order to do that, I need to make sure that this sits within this area here, this grey area of our UV map. This is the kind of positive area. So we need to make sure that it all fits within this object. So when we create an image file, it's going to export it only this box. Okay. I'm going to scale it down, so R for scale, and I'm going to try and use as much of the box as I can, because again, this is resolution we're talking about here. So if you only use a tiny bit of it, you're going to get a small resolution or a less detail on your image. Okay, that'll do. So with that done now, I can then go ahead and export that. So if you watch the next video, I'll show you how to export that, import it into Photoshop, and then start to paint and create your texture within Photoshop.